Hi everyone and welcome back. It's Mindy with Mindy Egan Design and I'm very excited to be guest designing over in the Simon Says Stamp Flickr group. Their challenge is Stencil It, and if anybody has ever watched my videos, I love my stencils. I may be a stencil hoarder. Anyway, so this video has a few different ways of some of my favorites that I like to use stencils, and that's what I'm going to show you. There's a few different cards that I made just with some different techniques. So what I'm starting out with is creating some backgrounds. So here I'm showing you some alcohol inks that I'm dropping just all over this Yupo paper, just some different shades of blues and greens that are mixing together. And then I'm just moving those around with a straw, blending in those colors, dropping in a few more drops of those inks, and then I'll go in with some blending solution to break that up a little bit. I have no rhyme or reason for the background. I just thought these colors were really pretty and just kind of filling in those areas. Then coming in with that blending solution, moving those around a little bit more. I'll actually have two cards using the alcohol inks. I thought this would just be a really good idea to try out with some stencils here in a minute. So just filling in some of those white areas so I can get a good use out of this Yupo paper. A couple more drops. And that'll fill in really nice. And I think this is just a really pretty combination of colors. So the next card I went for Bold and Bright, which I love my bold and bright colors. And these are just a few different reds, yellows, oranges. After a while, you really couldn't see too much of the yellow. I tried to add a few more drops in just to kind of bring that back out a little bit. But as the red and the orange, those weren't my best ideas to use together because they just blended so much, and with the alcohol inks, they just looked pretty similar. But I did try and bring in a few more drops of the yellow just to draw that out a little bit, and also the blending solution to help move that around, and using the straw to help get that moving. And I'm just doing this on, I believe this is a Ranger craft mat. This is kind of my alcohol ink craft mat. So if anything is stuck to it, I don't care. It's my dirty mat, so to speak. So I'm going to set those off on the side to dry because they did have some sticky areas. So my next background, this one I'm actually coming in with a stencil, and I'm going to be using the CAROLYN stencil. So I have two different ones that I'm actually going to be using. The CAROLYN one I use quite a bit. It was just the one I happened to grab. And I'm attaching that to my Nina Solar White cardstock with some purple tape. And I'm coming in with the Decofoil transfer gel. So I wanted to try some using some foils. And I love the versatility of stencils. So I'm coming in with that Decofoil, putting that on my palette knife, and I'm just going to run this across the entire piece. This is a really smooth medium. I couldn't think of the word. A really smooth medium. So this just spreads right over the entire thing. I'm just being careful not to catch any of those fine lines of the stencil. I wanted to have nice definition. And just making sure to scrape that across so it's all nice and smooth. I really wasn't sure how it was going to foil. I've experimented a little bit in the past, but nothing real extensive. And I do have to set this off on the side to dry for quite a while. I wasn't exactly sure on the time frame. And pretty much while I was creating this cards, it is how long it took to dry. I probably should have left it overnight. Might have been a better guess, but I was just kind of on a roll getting all my cards put together. So while I was putting all my cards together and die cutting my words, things like that, that's when I just had this off on the side drying. So finishing that off, cleaned off my palette knife, just cleaning up my edges a little bit. And then I can go ahead and carefully remove my stencil from this cardstock. And I'm just setting up some paper towel to put these items on while they dry. That way none of this stuff is getting transferred over to my table. And then I'm just going to make sure to go ahead and rinse the stencil off really well. So now this time, this is one of my favorite uses and probably the most common when it comes to the stencils, is I'm taping this stencil down to a Bristol Smooth cardstock, and I'm coming in with just oxides. So like I said, this is probably my favorite, probably the most common that I see using stencils, and using that CAROLYN stencil again from Simon Says Stamp. And I started off with the Twisted Citron, and I started in the middle, and then I'm working my way out with a Salty Ocean, and then I'll come in with Blueprint Sketch. I think this is just a gorgeous combination, and I tend to lean towards it quite a bit. I'm trying to change up my color scheme, but this one is just such a pretty combination, and I love how it starts soft and light in the middle and just kind of works its way out. So I'm just kind of turning my stencil around. This is why I don't tape my stencils down to my craft mat, is because I can move my stencil around all over the place. Then I'm not kind of stuck to one area. And I don't need to be when I'm using the Distress Oxides. They just blend on so smoothly, whether it's the Bristol Smooth or even using regular Nina Solar White cardstock. So I went ahead and removed that. And then I'm going to just, while I'm going to clean up my mat real quick, and then I'll go ahead and spritz on some water so I can have those water droplets in the background. Oh, this is one of my other favorite things I've been doing lately. You're going to see this on a lot of my cards if you follow me, is I take those colors and I go back over my areas. And that just softens those white lines so they're not so stark and bright and popping out at you, which is also gorgeous. But I'm really liking this effect lately, where it's just taking those colors again and softening those lines. So now I can come in with my water and just flick those on, and then I'll dab those up with a paper towel, and it's going to leave me those really cool looking effects of those water spots. Kind of reminds me of the bokeh effect almost, where just kind of the water removes some of that ink off of the paper. So I can go ahead and get that cleaned up. And now I can come in and start playing with the stencils on my alcohol backgrounds. So on this one, I'm also using the CAROLYN stencil again. And I'm adhering this piece down. This is nice and dry. And I'm adhering that stencil down from the back so I can move my paper how I want. And I'm going to be coming in with the Nuvo Moonstone Glimmer Paste. Love this glimmer paste. This is just one of the best colors I've ever used when it comes to it. Everything, I tried the silver actually on one that I edited out. I really did not like how the silver had looked with the background. It was too much. This is just gorgeous. Like, the pictures don't even do this justice. It's just a really nice soft look to it and just adds a little extra spark to the card. So I'm just scooping this out, and same thing as like with the deco foil, I'm just spreading this over the areas. I don't even care if the edges are smooth or not. They can be kind of ragged so they're not such a finished line. And that's just my personal taste on this particular background, because it is kind of, I don't want to say messy, but you know, there's no real pattern to how the card is. So I'm okay with messy edges. And I'm going to do the same thing on this background as well, the orange and yellow and red. This time I'm using the Star Medallion. I thought I'd just try something different with the cards, and this one turned out so gorgeous. I mean, it's really just beautiful. You really have to give these a try. I love doing this. These are actually graduation cards because we have quite a few graduates that we know this year. So I thought these would just make really great graduation cards, something that really pops. So I'm just smoothing this over, and I'm not too worried about it being in an actual circle because I'm going to be trimming this card down anyway. And make sure when you're using this glimmer paste to rinse these stencils off immediately, or have like a pan off on the side or a little bucket off on the side that you can put that in. So here is the finished alcohol inked background cards with those stencils on top, and they're just so pretty. It's such a soft touch to it. I did go ahead and trim these down. So I'm attaching these to a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch white card base. So I trimmed my Yupo paper down to 4 by 5 1/4. And so now I'm just going through, and I'm using these quite often throughout the rest of my cards. I have the Yay die cut from white cardstock, and that is from So Many Yays, from My Favorite Things. And then I have You Are Flipping Amazeballs. I thought was a really cool kind of graduation card. You know, they did great. And that is from the EMPHATIC stamp set. So I'm just using some Simon Says Stamp glue, liquid glue, to attach these down. And I'm going to put blocks and just something heavy on them so it makes sure it holds down really well, because that is such a textured background. So I'll go ahead and get that attached. You could add dimension to them if you want to do some foam squares. I just thought with everything going on that attaching it right to the card would be just fine. For some reason, I had something stuck on my A there and I couldn't get it off, but I'm going to fix that in a little bit. So I'm going to set this off on the side with the block on top. And I had already gone ahead and done the green and blue background, and I used the same die cut there, the yay from So Many Yays. And this sentiment is, your awesomeness is boundless. So that I thought was a really great sentiment to give to a graduate. And see, these just sparkle. I just love these backgrounds. If you haven't tried stenciling on alcohol ink backgrounds, definitely give that a try. I may have already said that. I don't care. I'm saying it again because it's really awesome. So those I'm just going to sit off on the side to dry. And this one I already went ahead and did as well. So Reach for the Stars I thought was another really great appropriate graduation. The stars and Reach for is from Written in the Stars stamp set from My Favorite Things, which all of these products can be purchased through the Simon Says Stamp website, which I'll have all of those links down below in the video. And these held down really good. That adhesive really stuck to those textured backgrounds. I gave it a little test with my fingernail, just kind of tried to pull them up a little bit, and they were holding really well. So definitely a great adhesive to add to your stash. And what I decided to do, I still had that little mark. I don't know if you can see it in the camera, but I saw it in person. I came with a white gel pen. And I just kind of dabbed that up. You can't really see it in person. So once I put that gel pen on. Now I'm going to work on my foiling. So this is the dried piece that I have put that Decofoil transfer gel. I'm using this thin parchment sheet that comes with them. I'm laying that into my parchment sheet, coming in with this Thermal Web sparkling silver. This is so pretty, and it was really hard to capture on camera how gorgeous this is. So I lay that on top, and then fold side going in first. I'm going to run this through my laminator, and I did run it through twice just to make sure I had a really good solid impression, I guess, if you want to call it. But I did run that through twice. I had my laminator heating up the whole time I was kind of working on everything else. So now once that's kind of cooled a little bit, I'm going to go ahead and remove that transfer sheet. Just kind of push down on all of those areas really well. Make sure everything kind of stuck down. And then I can go ahead and pull this up, and I can use this foil sheet again if I have some toner paper, which I do. So I'm putting that off on the side, and it's so pretty. So I'm just being real careful to pull that back. And then I'll have this gorgeous sparkling background. And it kind of has those different rainbow colors in there, which was really pretty to see. And then I did take this and trim that down so I didn't have those rough edges to it. So I'm just using my Tim Holtz trimmer and getting those edges cut down. So this is going to be trimmed to 4 by 5 1/4, and I can attach it to an A2 size card base. And then I'll do the same thing. I'm just using that stars die again, which I used with black cardstock. So I'm just going to attach this on, and then I have Shine Like the Stars. I thought was a really great sentiment to use for graduation cards as well. So I really hope you enjoyed this video and got some ideas for using your stencils. Like I said, there's so many different ways to use stencils. I absolutely love using stencils. They add so much to a card. You can be bold and drastic or real soft and subtle. There's just so many different ways, and they're so easy to use. So if you did enjoy this today, please give it a big thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already done so. The supplies will be listed down below, and be sure to head over and check out the Simon Says Stamp Flickr group and enter the challenge if you have some stencils. You can even use your dies to create stencils. You just cut them out of acetate. So another great way to try out some stencils. So thank you so much for stopping by, and I will catch you in the next video.